Hello, I'm Pam, and this is Friday Sews. So, Jen in Jen's sewing room put 10 questions together so we can get to know each other. So, first question was, what's my name? Well, my name is Pam, or otherwise Pamela. I mostly go by Pam, and my kids tend to call me Mommy. Yep, or Mom. All right. Where are you from? So I basically wrote down my questions so I could, have them here. So where am I from? Well, I'm from Utah. I was born in Utah. I lived for 2 years in Wyoming, but I'm 43. So I've lived 41 years of my life in Utah. Now I've lived multiple places in Utah, but I have lived in the house I currently live in since 2006. So I've lived here a while, and I love it. Okay, says, how long have you been sewing? Well, I guess I started sewing probably when I was about 9. Mostly just like little, like toys and like trying to make up clothing and stuff. And when I was 15, I did sew a quilt. Well, I got some like square pieces of fabric, like those little sample packs that you would get. I got those from a yard sale for like 25 cents for this big, huge package of, or maybe it was like $2. I think it was like 25 cents per container, and I bought all of it, and I think it cost me like $2 to $5 for all this fabric that I sewed it together mostly by hand with like embroidery thread, like embroidery floss thread. So the extra thick pieces I used to sew it together. And yeah, I was an amateur. And so I was sewing that together, and I had a neighbor, she's a friend of mine, like she had kids that were like my younger kids' ages, like my younger siblings' ages. So, like her daughter was like 3 to 4 years younger than me, her oldest. And so, but I used to babysit for her. And I told her what I was doing, and she's like, hey, you can bring it over here and I can help you with it. I can let you use my machine. And so I go over there to use the machine, and I'm thinking, okay, well, do I just go over what I've already sewn? And I wish I would have at the time, thinking back on it now, because those stitches, oh my goodness, they have so much to be desired. But that's okay. I made that when I was 15. So, and also how long, let's see. Yeah. So what machines do I have? Well, my first machine that I bought was when I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, so it was probably about 1996. I bought a Brother XL3025, which I still use, which is sitting right here. Trusty old machine. And then the second machine I got was possibly like 9 to 10 years ago, was a Necky machine. And that is currently not being used because it, like the bobbin holder, because it's a drop-in bobbin, that something's wrong with it. And I'm just too cheap to take it to a repair shop. I'm going to try to replace the bobbin case, and then if that doesn't work, then I'll think about it. But I have other machines, so I'm not too worried about it. And then I do have another Brother machine. It's just a simple machine. Doesn't have any fancy stitches. Does straight and zigzag. And I got it for $5 from a thrift store. And I call it my kids' learning machine, so they can learn how to sew with it. And then I have a Husqvarna Viking S25 serger / cover stitch machine. And then I have a Singer serger that I got a couple years ago that I recently fixed up. And then I have 2 embroidery machines. Yeah, I have a lot of machines. So I have 2 embroidery machines. I have the Brother SE625 embroidery and sewing machine. And then I have a Husqvarna Viking Topaz 40 embroidery machine, which I love both of them. Okay, so, and I have other machines too, but they're not in use at the moment. I just need to get rid of them. But, you know, with the pandemic, you can't really get rid of anything. So go figure. Alright, so am I self-taught or classes? Well, that's kind of weird because I did 4-H as a child. And then in junior high, we had a TLC class with sewing. So it was like a class that we did computers, we did sewing, we did woodworking. So I liked doing woodworking too. I have a end table, and I still have it. It's upstairs next to my bed. And we also did jewelry making. But so like the woodworking and the sewing were like my favorite parts of that class in junior high. And then, as I mentioned, I made a quilt at 15. I did have a lot of assistance and learning how to tie a quilt. That was fun. Alright, so favorite fabric, knit or wovens? Well, I like both, but woven I think I sew with more, but I do have some pretty bizarro knit fabrics. You know, I love it all. But for like pants and stuff, definitely woven. For shirts, I find myself reaching for the knits, and this I did not make, but this I made, and it just depends on the day. Okay, so which pattern do I prefer? Well, it says Big 4 indie patterns. Well, I like the Big 4. I have a lot of Simplicity and McCall's and Butterick and Quick Sew. Yeah, I love patterns. Alright, so where do I like buying fabric? Online or in the store? Okay, so here's the thing. I don't really like buying fabric from online, but I have. So I buy the fabric online if I can't find it in the store available. So I will go online and I will look for it. And so that's basically really the only time I buy it online, is if I'm looking for a certain fabric that I can't find in store. And that's if I had an order that required that specialty fabric. But my most favorite place to go shopping is the thrift store. So, which I don't need any more fabric, obviously. I was telling my daughter, I'm like, why did you want to come here? It's like, you know my weakness. I love fabrics. And I'm like, I have like 1,000,000 pieces of fabric, and I come here and I have to get more because I don't have these pieces yet. So I buy more. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But, you know, I may never get through it all in my lifetime, but I'm going to try to get through some of it. I just need to not go fabric shopping. Unless I need something absolutely, but fabric is fabulous. I love fabric. Okay, so it says my favorite sewing task. Well, I like seeing the project come together. I like seeing it take shape. Like just start to form that thing that it is supposed to be. Like I'm working on a jacket right now. And, you know, some of it's a little complicated and stuff, but I love being able to see it come together. Like, and sometimes I make things overly complicated. But like this. This is like a pocket piece. And so I'm like working. But I love seeing things come together. And I like using the creativity of putting something together. And it's unique to me. It's unique to what I want to do. So I don't always follow the patterns 100%. Like with the jacket I'm making, I'm going to add a lining to it. Because, you know, when you think about it, let me get a piece that I can show you. So this is like going to be the back piece. Well, when you think about it, you really don't want to like see this on the back of your jacket. You know, with all the different threads and stuff. And you're not really supposed to cut all those off. So, you know, and I just like the look of having it lined if you have those details on it. So, my advice for beginners. Basically, if you have questions, ask. So, I guess it was probably after I had my son. So, he's 11. And I started staying home with him. Well, I started staying home before I had him. And my husband was in Afghanistan. And I had my mom living with me at the time. And I had mentioned to her one day, I'm like, you know what? I would really like to sew my own clothes, but these patterns, I had the word in my head and now I just can't remember what I was going to say. They like allude, like, can't even think. It starts with an A. Ends with an E. But they just kind of like, I just didn't quite get it. I didn't quite get how to do a pattern, because most of my life before that, I was sewing quilts. So I did a lot of quilts. I made quilts and I gave them away. Made them for special occasions, made them for Christmas gifts, and just all these other things. And so that's what I did. And if I made a bag, I would make just a basic bag, but I would just kind of do it out of the top of my head. So I never really used a pattern. I never really used like books and different stuff. And so I had mentioned that to her. She's like, well, get some patterns. and I will show you. And so at that time, they still had Hancock Fabrics open, and they had the 99-cent pattern sale at the time. And so I would go in there and I would look at the patterns, and I'm like, oh, well, I like these and these and these. And then I would go to Joann's and I'm like, oh, 99 cents. All right. And I'd buy more and more. Yeah. And now my pattern cabinet is like full and bursting. I might have to clear out that top drawer to fit all the other patterns, but I don't want to do that because it has books in it too that are sewing books. So, and then they also have other patterns. But I had asked her, and she started teaching me. She explained to me what each of the things were and how there wasn't a reason to be like frightened or scared of it. Like if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You just, try again. And so I tried. And yeah. And so now I have my own sewing room, which I'm in the basement. And I like that. Now, I don't always like not having, the natural light or the brightness. And I know my room looks plenty bright right now, per se, but it's not generally. I just have a lot of lights on. So, they say if you have questions, ask, and watch YouTube. There is so much knowledge on YouTube and these other platforms, so many people. And they may not always know what they're exactly doing, like me. I try, but I'm awkward. So that's the way it is. But yeah, so if you have questions, ask. That's the number one thing. Ask, and if you don't have anyone to ask per se, watch the videos. Ask them, say, hey, how do you do this? And there'll be someone. There's so many people. They'll just type in and just answer your question for you. But yes. So that was the 10 questions. I've just kind of gone off on a little tangent there. So, and don't forget all these little channels. We may be small, but all these other ones started out small too. And they just exploded, So, give us a chance. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. This was Friday Sews. And go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. And I will talk to you later. Have a wonderful day. Bye.